to Wonders and Miracles podcast, where we celebrate miraculous moments in everyday lives. I'm Liza Lawrence. I'm glad to have you join me as we celebrate wonders and miracles together. Okay, well, I am here today with Liz from Utah, and she has had a lot of health challenges in her life and has had a near-death experience. Sometimes we call them NDEs, but I actually have been fascinated with near-death experiences since high school. I don't know if you've read this book, Liz, or if you've read other books about this, but I read a book called Return from Tomorrow by George Ritchie. He was one of the first NDEers to share his story. And I was so fascinated, not just because of his experience, but I had had several out-of-body experiences as a child and as a young girl. And I've had spiritual experiences, and it was fascinating to hear his as well. And so it's a genre that I've loved hearing about and reading about. And so I'm excited to hear your experience. And I think every one of them are miraculous and beautiful. And I love hearing about the other side. So Liz, thanks for being on to share your story.
Sure.
At the beginning, tell us, you've had a lot of health challenges. What are some of the health challenges that you've had that led up to your experience?
I have a couple of autoimmune diseases. I'm also diabetic, and I have actually really bad bipolar. I don't really usually tell people that. My one illness is called hereditary angioedema, and it is where your body is kind of rejecting your body, and you get these swells that cause your eyesight to shut or your throat to shut or your stomach expands. Any part of your body, it affects everything but the lungs. Well, I have asthma really bad too, so my lungs are shot. But
the one part it doesn't affect, you have other issues.
Yeah. So the other one is called dermatomyositis, and that is also another autoimmune. It deals with your joints, your muscles. I have like bright red skin all the time, and my arms hurt, and they're black and purple because of the circulation and stuff. And then I have a prolactinoma, which is a tumor on my brain that they can't cut out. So it affects my memory and different things in my life. But all of these things weren't when I had my near-death experience and I was in a coma for a long time. But they all have affected my life like negatively. But I've learned to deal with it a little bit better.
Yeah, that sounds like a lot of health issues and complication on top of complication sort of issues.
It is. And then, you do something like I gained a lot of weight because of the HAE and the medications. And they are like, well, it's better that you're not swelling. And I do have a trach because my throat won't stay open. And so you have to fight your battles we're fighting. And sometimes you just have to give it up to God and hope you do okay.
Wow. It sounds intense. Do you live on your day-to-day experience before we get into the near-death experience? What does your day-to-day look like? Are you nervous throughout the day that things might happen?
Oh yeah. And stuff happens all the time. I had an ambulance just like 2 weeks ago come and have to pick me up. So yeah. And I'm also on a ventilator. Most of the time I was going to be on it here, but it covers my face. So I'll have coughing fits, and I've had to even crawl to get on my oxygen. There's been other times in like public places that I just start coughing and it causes my body just to shut down and I'll fall. And sometimes it's quick and sometimes it's not. So I feel like my journey in life is to just be able to be happy with who I am and what I've been dealt with. And it helps my husband. He is my number one caregiver, and he does absolutely everything for me. But then I also have nurses that come into my home as well. There's certain things I can't do. So.
And you also have a little girl. How old's your daughter?
She's 10.
So that's a lot, right? To try and be a mom and a wife and take care of your own health. Yeah.
Yes, it's quite a challenge. I'm blessed to have one girl. We thought we might want to have more, but I don't think I could have been a mom of more than one child and been a good mom.
Well, take us to the moment. So you've actually, because of all these health challenges, died a couple times. But
Right.
take us to the moment that you had your near-death experience. What happened? What led up to it?
This particular experience happened, it was May 2014. We had just got back from vacation. And so I was a little more worn out and stressed. And I just had a really bad attack. At the time, I didn't have a trach and my breathing stopped. So we went to the ER and they're like, oh no, you're critical. Let's take you straight up to the ICU. I wasn't in the ICU 15, 20 minutes and something happened. And they had to intubate me and they put me out and they life flighted me to McCady. And when I got there, I remember them looking at me and saying, we're going to have to intubate you or you're going to die. And I said, well, I need to see my husband. And right then John walked and he stood in the doorway. And I just said, I love you. And that was it. It took me a couple of weeks to come out of a coma and figure out what was going on, because I didn't know what happened after that, where they life flighted me. And then I had heart failure. I had respiratory failure. We thought it was some medications and we still aren't really sure why. That's kind of a intro to the experience.
Okay. So do you remember leaving your body?
Yes, absolutely. Again, they had to be intubated, and every time they tried to take the tube out, I would go into respiratory failure. And they tried it and they tried it, and like nothing they could do worked. They asked my husband, can we give her a trach? And he said, yes, anything to keep her alive. It was during that time when they were trying to take out a tube and get the trach in and all that kind of stuff. And I remember nothing before that. I don't remember. People would come and visit and I had no idea. My husband and I actually talked about that the other day. Like, I don't remember anybody except for when my mom came. And this was like after 3 or 4 weeks of being in a coma. So when they're intubating me, I go into respiratory and heart failure all, again. And I remember sitting up really quick with all these tubes and stuff and like could barely sit up, but I sat up and I took a big deep breath and that was it. I was dead. Like that was my last breath.
And did you
So,
actually physically sit up?
yes. And I
Wow.
remember that part. The doctor was shocked. He's like, what's going on here? So when they pushed me down, that's when the experience happened. I went from being in the dark, and I don't know if other people who've been through comas have the same experiences I do, but that's all I remember. It's just kind of being in darkness and wondering where everyone was at and why I couldn't see anybody, why I couldn't hear anything. My husband said that I was only out for like less than a minute, but I felt like it was a really long time.
And people say that, don't they, with their NDEs? They say, I don't know how long I was over there, but it felt like timeless, honestly.
It did. Yeah,
Same.
exactly.
Interesting.
Yes.
So in that darkness, then what happened?
As I said, I remember that moment. I opened my eyes and I was sitting up and then pushed me down. And that's when I took the breath. And then I woke up in my mind, not literally. I just woke up and everything was so like bright as the noonday sun. It was so bright. And I am LDS and we have temples. And one of the rooms that I was in looks like a room that was in one of our temples. It was really bright, beautiful furniture, gold mirror. And that's when I looked in the mirror, and then I saw hundreds of people in a line. They said they were related to me, and they said that they missed me.
Oh, wow. So were you instantly in that room? Do you remember
Yes.
traveling there, but you just woke up into that room?
Yeah. I went from complete and total darkness to like complete peace and comfort and joy. Like I really did. And at that point, I recognized people. The more familiar people were more in the front of the line. So the first person I saw was my grandpa, Cooper, and he had died quite a number of years earlier, but I was really close to him. And he hugged me and he said, "We're glad that you were able to come." Then I saw my other grandpa, and he was just asking how I am and how, I've been dealing with all my stuff. And then it just went to like great grandma, and they're like, "Oh, this is your great 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 grandma." And I was amazed. I just cried and cried and cried because I was like, I'm not sure if it was because I don't think I deserve to be in heaven with my family, or if I just, that part of my faith, like I just had this feeling, and I'm like, I can't believe I'm here. I can't believe I've made it. It's kind of what it was like. I made it. I'm in a good spot. And so I remember talking to them just about different stuff, like a lot about my daughter and my husband and how my family was doing, my parents and brothers and all that. And it was an amazing like family reunion for me. Everyone was in white. It was just so peaceful, so bright, so amazing. I don't know what other word to describe it as.
And I think a lot of people have that. It's hard to describe, right? The experience you had because
Yes.
I've read so many, but it's this feeling of something that you can't totally explain. I've heard.
Right. And at first I thought, I'm just dreaming. This is not real. Somebody said, yes, it is. Like, this is real. And then I said, well, what do we do now? And they're like, what do you mean? And I said, well, I'm here now. What do I do? And they're like, it's not your time to go. They're like, it's not your time to be here. And I said, it's not? They said, no, you've got stuff left to do. They said, you did, die, and you're here with us now, but we'll give you the strength to live and to make a good life for yourself and be a good person. And they gave me all these pieces of advice, and how to make myself a better person when I come out of it. I can't wait to have that peace and that feeling again. Ever since it happened, that's kind of been my goal. My whole goal in life is just to have peace and to be loving and caring and doing what I can for humankind. That's kind of what they told me is, you need to go. You're not done. And they said, you need to raise your daughter for a few more years. So I'm not sure how much time I have, but I know that I lived a whole lot longer than anybody ever thought I would.
So you met relatives. Were they all relatives?
They were, but they were relatives from forever ago. So let's say that we're in a room, and this room is a square room, and there's mirrors, huge mirrors on each side, and you can look forever. And that's why they call it an eternal mirror. So people were standing in front of the mirror, and it was weird because they are all looking in the mirror, and I looked and I could see everybody, but the line, it went past the mirror, and it looked like they were exiting out a door, but yet it wasn't a door. But it went from my most recent relatives until relatives that were from medieval times, and just from everywhere. I don't know how I knew that because I don't think they told me that, but everyone was not dressed like in costume like on a movie. Everyone was dressed in white, even though it's from that far back.
But how interesting that you knew that, like you knew their time period when that's fascinating.
Yeah. And I don't know if I was given that information or I just thought that, but.
Very interesting. So they all had a connection to you. That's fascinating. Yes. A lot of people say they had a spirit guide or Jesus, or, they felt some very divine presence. Anyone like that could you feel?
I felt somebody with me, like holding me, kind of by the arm and helping me walk to see everybody. I don't know who that was. They were somebody from my life, but for the life of me, I don't know if I knew and have forgotten, or if it was a stranger that worked in the temple that was introducing me to people because she knew them all. So I'm not sure. Sometimes I think it was my great grandma.
Interesting. But you did have someone there as a guide, sounds
Yes.
like.
And they were the one that held my arm and led me to the people.
And you never left this room. This was where your experience happened, it sounds like.
Yes.
You were told that
Yeah.
it wasn't your time. Were you given a choice to stay, or was it just an understanding of this isn't your time?
Well, yeah. They specifically told me, you're not staying here. You've got to go back. There's a lot more you need to do.
And how did you feel about that?
I was sad. I'm sad now. I miss some of those people. And for some reason, I thought it would be better off, if I'm just there. I sometimes feel like a burden to people, and I was ready to not have to worry about that anymore. I wanted to be the one in the line to talk to people and do things, but it was a miraculous experience. But I think that it has helped me tremendously as a person. I just talked to my parents yesterday for a long, long time, and they told me, you're in one of the best places you've been in a long time, not only health-wise, but spiritually and emotionally. And I think that a lot of it was because of that experience.
Yeah. And it sounds like you needed more work to do here. And that
Exactly.
experience helped you with that. And I'm sure that experience also needing to come back, it's not probably just for your own development. I'm sure that's part of it, but for development of other people in
Definitely.
needing to help you and being a part of your experience as well. So we all connect with one another, right?
I definitely think so. Yes. I think it's helped me to be a better person. I don't know if I would be in this good place, as I said, emotionally, spiritually, if I had not had that experience.
So what did you learn specifically?
I think the number one thing that I learned was that affirmation that there is a life after death, that I'm not just going to be dug up and thrown in a hole and hope somebody remembers that, 100 years from now, I can be the one helping people and helping my family members. And
Do you ever still feel those ancestors with you helping? Can you share
definitely.
some of those experiences?
And see, some of the relatives I saw too were my husband's family. So we live in my husband's great grandpa's house.
Oh,
It's like
wow.
102 years old or something. And when we first moved in, I was released from the hospital, but I was bed bound and on a ventilator and all that, like trying to keep me alive here at the house. And I would just feel things. One time I felt like I was falling and, someone helped pick me up. And this has been since we've lived here, which has been 7 years. We moved in here just 2 days after I was released from my coma and instantly felt spirits that were helping me. And it still happens now. Sometimes I shake my feet because I'll stop breathing. And even though I'm on my ventilator, it helps if I get up and breathe and get some air going in myself. And that's happened several times where they were like, wake up,
Mm.
get up, you're gonna die.
I think it's beautiful because I believe that we do have spirits with us a lot, angels helping us. And I believe a lot of them are our ancestors that are directly connected to us and have a direct interest in our benefit and our growth and our journey. And so I think
Yeah.
that's really, really neat that you've experienced things like that. A lot of people, after they've had near death experiences, talk about having new spiritual gifts or new intuitions, things that they've didn't have before. Do you experience that? I know you've mentioned you can feel spirits and they're helping you. Do you have other things that have changed since then?
The one thing I think of is peace. I talked about that before, but I'm one of those sensitive people, pretty laid back, pretty quiet. Sometimes as a parent or even a spouse, you need to be a little bit opinionated or whatever. I don't know. And so I feel like they've helped me to be a better mom and a better wife and say, okay, look, and I just will think of stuff and I know that it's coming from family members, but I'll just pray a spirit will come and I'll feel like, okay, this is right. Or this is what I need to do. Or you need to take a 5-minute break from life and just different things like that. It's hard to explain, but I feel like we've got a lot of spirits here. But I think too, you have to be open. After that experience, I'm 100% open to whatever. And we, fortunately, I've never had any ill feelings or bad feelings. It's all been positive for me.
So you feel a little more open to that spiritual realm. And I
Right.
love that. I call them knowings. It's like you'll have a spiritual
Oh,
knowing and you don't know how you know what to say or do, but you'll just know. And I feel like
exactly.
those are spiritual experiences or inklings of, okay, that was not from me.
Yeah, that's exactly it. That's
Mhm.
exactly what I feel. Yeah.
That's cool. That's neat. And I love that you said it sounds like you've become a little more bold in and I think that's part of I teach human development, and part of developing into our true selves is to honor ourselves and say, actually, this is what I need, or this is what I think, rather
Right.
than being too submissive sometimes.
Which is me.
Which
Yeah,
it sounds like that's been a little bit of your transformation. I love that.
it has. And it's been a good thing. It's positive, and, sometimes I wonder where it comes from, but
Well, and maybe that's what you needed to learn, to
I
come
think
back
so.
and practice some of those skills for your.
Exactly. Yeah. And I feel like I'm just every day preparing for that. And I try to listen to that little spirit, that's in your ear and says, this is, right, this is wrong. So I try.
That's cool. I love that you called it a big family reunion. That's my favorite because I think that is what it's going to feel like for us. And I've read so many that that's what they say, so many family members that
Yeah.
you said they gave you some pieces of advice. Were those personal advice? Do you remember any of those things?
I remember them just saying, go easy on yourself. Don't be
Mm.
so judgmental about yourself. And, they said, be a good mom. You were given a really special gift in your daughter. And, we never thought we would have children. And then all of a sudden, like one day we did. And it was a miracle.
I love that message of be gentle with yourself. I love
Yeah.
that. I think that's so beautiful. And I think we all need that reminder because we are hard on
Yeah.
ourselves. At least I am on
We
myself.
are.
But I think most people are.
People are. I
Hmm.
really do. It has helped me to really love my family more. I had a very strained relationship with my dad for a while, and I'll never do that again. I'll never go a day without like talking to him and my mom, telling them I love them. It definitely has made me a better person. There's still things I have to work with, but
I love that so much. So, yeah, how has it affected your husband?
well, it's been extremely difficult for him, I think. It seems fine now, but at the beginning, when I was first diagnosed, I had been so sick for a long time. And he's the one that gives me my medicine through my port, gets all my supplies. He cooks dinner if I don't feel well. He does absolutely everything that I need and more. And he doesn't do it begrudgingly, or he always says, it doesn't bother me. I'll do whatever you need me to do. But he is a trooper. We went to a big HAE conference shortly after I was in my coma. When we were there, they said 30 to 40% of people with autoimmune deficiencies or diseases get a divorce because there's
Oh.
so much work. They are. I can't even go up and down stairs, and he does everything. He has to push me in a wheelchair, and
Well, it sounds like he's learning some valuable lessons through your
yes,
experience too.
I think so. And I feel bad, but then again, he's such an amazing person, and I don't think he would be that way
Mhm.
without same reason me. Like I don't think I would be the person I am today without this experience.
Yeah, and I think that is the whole purpose of life is the difficult experiences in life do change us for the better in a lot of ways. They can if we can learn the
Yeah.
lessons from them. And what are some of the lessons you've learned through your struggles?
Oh, I think I've learned that I'm stronger than I thought I was. I think that I've learned the importance of being kind, just being non-judgmental. Yeah, I think it's taught me to like to be a better mom. If I'm getting upset, I'll just like take a deep breath and then do it. But there's so many things I can't even list them all.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah. We didn't touch on, do you remember coming back into your body? And what did that feel like, if you remember that?
it was as quick as I went there, like, snap.
Mm-hmm.
I was there. It was almost the same thing back. I was crying a whole lot. And I felt like somebody was pulling me back, because I was hugging and I didn't want to go. And I don't think it was I didn't want to go. It's just that I was so peaceful and happy there that I wanted that feeling. They were helping to guide me back into my body. And that's when, and within I think 48 hours, I was out of a coma. They had the trach in, and I was in hospital still for, 3 or 4 weeks because I had to learn how to eat and talk and walk and all that stuff.
Yeah. I can imagine. I like to meditate, and actually meditation for me is one of those spiritual practices that you can get into that really peaceful, loving, almost like you're drinking from that
Yeah.
loving, peaceful energy, right? When I'm there, it's quite euphoric. Like, wow, I just want to be here all the time. And I
Yeah.
don't want to enter back into my life because it's hard and there's chaos. And
Right.
so have you been able to revisit that feeling since then? Is because it's familiar to you now, you've experienced it.
I definitely think that for sure. Be something like I'm driving the car, I sit at the stoplight and I'll just say, man, you're so blessed. Or I'll go to the store and I'm like, oh, you're blessed. You've got money to buy groceries and stuff.
Yeah.
And that kind of thing. Where before it's just kind of like, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
But I think that I appreciate things more, but I have that peace so much more now so that I'm able to be a better person, I think.
Mm-hmm. I love that. Well, I have loved hearing your story and your experience. I think it's beautiful and miraculous. And I just
Thank
really
you.
appreciate you sharing what you experienced.
Sure. I'm glad I could do it because I don't get to do it very often.
And I love celebrating spiritual experiences with people because I just think they're so beautiful and they're uplifting. And I think they're helpful for people who are saying, can I have a glimpse of heaven, or know that, is God here helping me? Are there people here helping me? And when people can share real experiences that, yes, there are spirits helping us here. And
for sure.
yeah.
I appreciate you.
Thank you. I really appreciate this. Thank you so much for listening to this miracle story. Please subscribe to my channel if you liked it. You can also find me